Thank you. Well, I've come on all emotional. Thanks very much. Yeah, it's been a heck of a journey, and my God, there's still a long way to go yet. I ain't finished yet, the old guy. And thanks for coming to Wembley. First time I'd forgotten until I came to look around the place when we were thinking of coming here, but I played football where you're sitting in 1967 as a 15-year-old when my club, Coventry City, had a brain fade and sent their youth team to a national five-a-side tournament full of international footballers. And they used to call me Cinderella because I kept missing the ball that night, you know what I mean? And we played Manchester City. Younger people might not remember them. They were great stars at the time, Mike Summerby, Colin Bell, and many others. And they beat us 3-0. And I still can't remember seeing the bloody ball and where it went. So first time I came here, we got beat 3-0. I hope for a score draw today on a very much longer appearance than the few minutes in that game. Well, I say a lot longer. I'd like to thank you for coming to Wembley. I'd like to thank everybody around the world watching this. But really, I'm not going to keep you long because I've really only got one thing to say. There it is. All the world is mad. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming. Hope you've enjoyed it. Well, I'll put a bit of detail on it, but pretty much that's it. And you know what? One of the great breakthroughs is when you realize, as you awaken, it's the world that's freaking mad, not you. That's the breakthrough. And so we have, I love this, I tried being normal once, it was the worst 5 minutes of my life. And if you're considered sane and credible and normal to a world that is insane, then you've got a problem. So, welcome to the crazy ones today, to Wembley and from around the world. As Krishnamurti said, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And this great guy, Frederick Douglass, a great campaigner in America against slavery. I prefer to be true to myself, even at the hazard of incurring ridicule, don't know what that's like, rather than to be false and incur my own abhorrence. When it is uncomfortable, when it is unpopular, even when it is dangerous to speak the truth, is precisely the time that truth should be spoken. And this is precisely the time. And it's very easy. It's a great saying, this, not mine. It takes nothing to join the crowd. It takes everything to stand alone. That's when the true self expresses itself. And standing alone also in a world of clinical insanity. When crazy is the new norm. And if you're not crazy to the system, then you are not playing the game of the system. And it takes some standing up with all the tidal wave of pressure to conform. And that's an image you're going to see quite a lot of. Because this world is mad because it's run by crazy people. Not only people as we would perceive human people, it is run by crazy other kinds of people in other kinds of dimensions. And what you have is these crazies, this force of crazy, which is operating behind the scenes where no one sees it, and anyone mentions it, you're mad, they don't exist, and putting up front, out in the world that we see, are more bloody crazies. We call these people politicians, for instance. Crazy people who think that pepper bombing cities of civilians is protecting them from violence. Did I miss something? There's Hillary, another one of them, another crazy, wants to kill everybody and maim and slaughter. And then, these are some crazies. These are the people that lend us money that doesn't exist and charge us interest on it. But who's crazier than them? We stand for it. Enough. Enough of standing for the crazies. We have doctors who are arbiters of life and death, health and ill health, who don't even know what the human body is, never mind how it works. Mind you, the drug companies will tell them that's enough. We have babies in their first 18 months of life with their immune system still developing, being hit by a tidal wave of poison and shite. And the world isn't crazy. We have teachers telling young people to believe what they were programmed to believe and what they must teach if they're going to keep their job in a state-imposed curriculum dictating what's right and wrong, historically true, and all the rest of it. So we turn out young kids, bright wonder of the world, this new world they're in, bright thinking, imaginative kids, and we put them through a sausage machine and turn them out the other end. And I tell you what, the very fact that so many young people are waking up and seeing the system despite going through this shows the power of consciousness over programming. And then we have religions. Everyone to their own, but I personally think it's crazy within the greatness and infinity of forever to believe that all you need to know is between the covers of one book written by who knows when, in who knows what circumstances, and changed and manipulated by who knows who in the time between then and now. I think that's just a bit crazy. And then we have the crazies called scientists, most of whom spend their time not exploring the mysteries of reality, but in devising more and more effective ways to technologically kill more and more people and to poison more and more people through food additives and drugs. I think that's crazy. All the stuff. And then we've now got to crazy, where in airports around America and some other places, and they want it play it out everywhere, when you get on an aeroplane, you've got the choice between being irradiated or sexually molested, including your kids. And they say, I'm mad. Did I miss something? And then all the time we've got more and more surveillance. This plaque here says George Orwell lived here. And now, do you see that story the other week? More than 200 schools in Britain have got surveillance cameras in the frigging toilets and changing rooms. The world, crazy is just not the word. Have you come across these Intelli streets? They're now introducing them. Intelli streets. They have not only the ability to bark out orders to you through the technology involved, but they can not only listen into your conversations in the street, they can record the buggers. And then they've got all this kit in the sky. We have legislation now in America, land of the free, where the president can and the military can arrest anyone they want and keep them without charge or trial or public evidence when they think they are a suspected terrorist. Who decides that? The people that arrest them. And then we have Mr. Nobel Peace Prize, I collapsed once in a hotel room. And I woke up, I wondered what the hell was going on, and I got my kind of mind together, and I thought, what happened? And I thought, well, the telly was on in the news, and the last thing I remember hearing on the news was Barack Obama's won the Nobel Peace Prize, and then it all went bloody black. I mean, mind you, Nobel, what did he do? He made explosives or weapons, I guess, you know, topsy-turvy world. And now he can sign lists, does all the time, and then they go and kill people, including American citizens, without anything in terms of a judicial process. And this is the craziest thing, isn't it? The biggest terrorists on planet Earth live in the political centers of power, like Downing Street and Washington. The biggest terrorists on Earth have the nerve to run a war on terror. All they need is a frigging mirror. This wonderful, wonderful picture. You talk to people through your life. How many people want war? How many people want to see people slaughtered? Some morons, yes, but how many? Very few compared with the population. We don't want war, but we have them. One after the other, because the crazies want them. We have given our power, human race, to the crazies who sit in front of computer screens in Air Force bases in places like Nevada, and they press their buttons, and thousands of miles away, their drone aircraft send out missiles. Oh, I've got one, Bill. I'm on the next level now. And this is what's happening at the other end. Thousands of civilians being killed. This world is insane. We have, because of cold, calculated recruitment over a long period of time now, an increasingly brutal police force. We have people being arrested in America for feeding the homeless when people are hungry, starving, and living in tents and cars. What will I grow up to be, Mummy? That's a bloody question worth asking when we look at where we are compared with where they want to take us. The future is here. You know, I've been standing on stages, not as big as this one, but I've been standing on stages and writing books for all these bloody years saying this Orwellian fascist dictatorship is coming. Not because I'm a prophet, no, but because if you can access a projected agenda and where it wants to take the world, then if nothing intervenes to stop it, it's going to happen. That makes predicting the future a piece of cake. There's nothing to it, as long as you know where they want to take us. And the media, well, they ain't going to tell us any of this stuff, the mainstream media, because they're owned by the crazies. Here's a news bulletin for you. There you go. Here's the latest news. Good evening, this is the news. The headlines tonight. Bollocks, 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 shit. Now here's Bill with the weather. That's it. That's it. That's it. You clap, you're awake. Right. Or you wouldn't bloody be here. But vast numbers of people get their minds from this crap, and therefore they become increasingly as crazy as the crazies that are feeding it to them. This is Black Friday. Have you ever seen this? Black Friday in America is the first day of Christmas shopping. What they do to get it going is they put all these little lost leaders with things, you know, very, very cheap, and they open the stores about 4 a.m. in the morning, and there are thousands of people all lining up in the dead of night to get this bargain. Oh, I must have that lemon squeezer, 80 cents out of my way or I shoot. And it's a situation we had again in America, where they had riots at a Nike training shoe launch because there wasn't enough to go round. And a few people can't control the world. It's a piece of cake. Not only in America, look at it in Britain. iPhone 5, Q hysteria in London. Work, buy, consume, die. Work, buy, consume, die. That's the program they want us to believe in. And so, while all these diversions, in and of themselves, a little bit of pleasure, as long as you keep the peripheral vision, it's all right. But when they take your entire focus, these are hiding the peripheral vision where the real deal goes on. And they make people like flies or moths round a light on a porch. They're so mesmerized by the diversion, they don't see the guy creeping up behind them with a swatter to smack them on the arse. That's where humanity is. Oh, come on, X Factor's on. Oh, that's good. Oh, there you go. Price is Right's on. Oh, there you go. And it's gone on, generation after generation. So there is a connection here, a connection across the generations of the human family in all its glorious expressions that has been keeping us in a hypnotic trance, believing total bollocks, believing it to be real, and to believing that slavery is freedom. Slavery, it works better when you don't tell them. I'm not a slave. What time you got to get up in the morning? Well, I have to get up at 7:30. And then what are you going to do? Well, they have to go to work. And on it goes. And even with all this evidence, large numbers of people still look at the world and say, it looks all right to me. It looks fine to me. John Lennon said, when I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life. And then there was that famous quote, that great quote, when Lennon was talking about the world, funnily enough, being run by insane people.
I think our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. You know, and I think that's what I sussed when I was 16 and 12, way down the line. But I expressed it differently all through my life. It's the same thing I'm expressing all the time, but now I can put it into that sentence that I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, you know. If anybody can put on paper what our government and the American government, etc., and the Russian, Chinese, what they are actually trying to do, you know, and what they think they're doing, I'd be very pleased to know what they think they're doing. I think they're all insane. You know, but I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. You know, that's what's insane about it.
Yes! And then there's the one word with a question mark that has been my guiding light this last nearly quarter of a century. Why? Not only is the world crazy, not is it run by crazy people, why? Why? To what end? And to understand that, it takes one heck of a lot of work. Because this is not about one subject. As you'll see today, it's why it's going on all day and into the night. It's not about one subject. It's about connecting dots, putting puzzle pieces together that on the face of it have no connection. But put them together and whoa, the picture becomes clear. What the system wants is for us to focus entirely, if they can get away with it, on a dot. This might be your football team, your career, your family. Nothing wrong with them in keeping with lots of other things, but I'm talking about focus. Focus on whatever takes your focus. Endless things do for endless different people. Because when you're focusing on something, you're not seeing the peripheral vision. It's all right focusing on something, but being aware how it connects into the greater picture, but if you're only there, you're a manipulator's party trick, because the manipulation's going on in the peripheral vision you're not seeing. And you can look at dots, society's dots, this banking scam, this a political scam. They're putting this shite in our food and the water. What about them chemtrail things in the sky? What's going on? They're all dots. But you connect them and bingo, the picture becomes clear. It's an elephant in the bloody living room. And that elephant in the living room is that there is a multi-level conspiracy, a multi-dimensional conspiracy to enslave humanity in a fake reality based on focusing people almost entirely in the five sense of reality. And on one level, yes, and I'm going to go into this big time in section 3 today. On one level, yes, it's about the manipulation of the conscious mind world that we see. It's about the police state emerging. It's about vaccinating children, destroying their immune system. It's about the microchip agenda, and all this stuff goes on. But you go deeper, and you find that behind the world we see is a world that we don't see, which is fundamentally manipulating the world that we do. And things like Saturn and the moon are very, very much involved. We're going to get into that big time in section 2 today. And the biggest glue, the biggest cement that brings the dots together is the fact that our reality, the one we think we're experiencing, is nothing like the way we experience it. This is the big one, because if you are researching the conspiracy and you don't see how it connects into the illusory nature of reality, you're never even going to enter the rabbit hole, never mind get deep into it. You're just going to walk around the edge. The common theme of all of it is the control of perception. That's the conspiracy. Everything else is detail. If you can control someone's perception, you control their behavior, you control their actions or inactions, thus you control them. You do that to vast numbers of people, you control the people collectively. And all the time, look at them. There are all these sources of people and institutions that are telling us what to believe, what we are, what's right, what's wrong, what's moral, what's immoral, what's mad and what's sane, and all this bloody stuff. And while all this is going on, the real knowledge, which I'm going to be talking about at length today, that what they really don't want us to know, is held in the upper levels of these compartmentalized secret society pyramids, and the people are kept in ignorance of that knowledge. Thus, we are being manipulated by knowledge that we don't even know exists. And this is what they want us to believe. I have no power. That is the perception of perceptions in the desire of the control system. Because if we think we have no power, we express no power, and thus we have no power, even though we are all powerful, all knowing, all that is, has been, and ever can be. So we stand here now. I've been saying this for years, but my goodness me, it's becoming more and more blatant. We are standing here now at this fork in the road, and we don't have any longer to make a decision. We can go on as we are, and we'll end up in a global fascist state within 10 to 15 years. Maybe I'm being optimistic, because the more you centralize power and control, the more power you have centrally to control and increase power centrally. So it gets faster and faster and faster. The more power you have, the more power you have to centralize even more. And so that's the question. And basically, this is what today is. The Shit Creek paddle stores. Because, you know, there's going to be some challenging information in section 2 and 3. And I hear some people who kind of New Age type people, and they say about people like me, they say, he's negative, shut him up, he's negative. And I think, well, okay, is truth negative or is ignorance negative? Well, truth's positive. Well, so if what I'm putting across has validity, it cannot be negative. Things that are happening and we need to know are happening are not negative, no matter how unpleasant they are. Ignorance of them is negative, because that's how we got into this position. So, if it's negative, can't take it, well, they should, I don't know, go and do something in a lotus position or whatever. Do what you like, but forget about this, because this is going to be challenging, much of it. But it is the key to doing something about it once we know it's going on and how it works. So, shit creek, but things are changing. Things are changing. Things are changing. People are starting to wake up and see it on a scale never before. We've seen the Occupy protests, and that's great. People are identifying this 1%. Actually, it's probably 0.1% if you get the real deal. And they're seeing this disparity. But as it goes on around the world, what those people have got to understand, I would suggest, if we're going to deal with this, is just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Because if you're only challenging something here and you're not getting to where it's actually coming from, you're not going to change it. You're just going to get more and more frustrated. And if we're going to find out how deep that rabbit hole goes and where it's coming from, and thus where we can change it, then we've got to ask big answers or big questions, and therefore get big answers. We don't tend to do this. We tend to ask when the football's on, we also tend to ask this and that, and what time the game show's on, but we don't ask the big questions. Big questions. Who are we? Who are we? What is a human or beyond human? Where are we? What is this reality? What is it? Why is the world as it is? Why is the world run by maniacs for maniacal reasons? These are the big questions, and you start to get big answers. The establishment institutions of science, education, media are not going to tell you, because the crazies control them. And when you open your mind and you open your heart and you go where that takes you, you realize that this physical world is an illusion. As the great American comedian Bill Hicks said, all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. We're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. And what a great quote that is. And if I could put the conspiracy in one sentence, it would be the manipulation of the imagination of ourselves, which is what? The manipulation of our perception. And when you realize the illusory nature of the world, you also realize how easy it is to manipulate people to manifest the world that which is manipulated, the perception, wants you to create. I mean, these are just a few kind of tricks that trick the brain into seeing what's not there. I love that line, optical illusions. They're great for throwing off drunk people. And these are all on a flat pavement. There's no three-dimensional nature to them, but the brain is tricked into seeing what isn't there. Same with that. That clearly is not there, but the brain is picking it up that it is. These lines are actually straight, but the brain can't decode it that way, so we don't see them as straight. Some people will see that as a glass, some people will see it as two faces looking at each other. That is on a flat surface. It's not three-dimensional at all, it's just been painted on it in a certain way. So is that. The lady there is also painted on. And it just tricks the mind. So does that. It's so easy. And these are simple, simple examples. Now imagine if you in the deep shadows know how reality works and how we're decoding it, you have the knowledge to manipulate what we decode, believing it's real, much deeper than just these simple illusions. Einstein said, reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one. And after 25 years nearly of researching this in nearly 50 countries and all the rest of it, and I've been saying this for years now, as many people will know, I say that that illusion is persistent because we are living in a virtual reality universe. And it was only this very week that I picked up a paper, and after I've been saying this for years and years and years and years, and found that these physicists say they may have evidence that the universe is a computer simulation. Hallelujah. Keep going, guys, because it bloody well is. And it explains so much about the world that we are experiencing, as I'm going to get to in detail. Now, when you look at, video games and stuff like that, and computer simulation games today, they're getting closer and closer to the reality we're actually experiencing. This is the guy's real face. This is his virtual face. And more, we're having training films and video games that are getting closer and closer to the reality that we're experiencing. Here's this guy. They train bloody parachutists. Hello, sir. I'm just landing in the desert. And it seems so in the best of them, as it seems so when people do it in this one. And people are learning to fly overwhelmingly through their training on simulation technology. Some hospitals are using virtual reality technology to change dressings in burns units because the virtual reality affects the experience, i.e. the experienced reality of the patient, to the point where they don't feel the pain anything like as much. And in these more sophisticated computer virtual reality games, then what are they doing? They're hacking into the five senses. That's what they're doing. Hacking into sight, hacking into touch. And even though they're just technology and information being fed to the mind, they can be incredibly bloody real. This one is incredibly bloody real. And what are they doing? They are hacking in to the five senses, hacking into a system through which we create this reality. The body is what I call a biological computer, and the senses pick up vibrational information, they turn it into electrical information fed to the brain, and the brain then constructs reality based on that information. And all that virtual reality games are doing is hacking into it and feeding different information for the brain to decode into an experienced reality. Now, what if that was happening here in terms of this, which I'll get to in section 2? The reason they can connect the brain to computers and have interaction is because they're connecting two computers, one fantastically more sophisticated than the other, but the principle is the same. The five senses are just a decoding system. Taking, like I say, vibrational information. The ear is the classic example, of course, but they're all like this. It takes vibrational information, it transfers it as electrical information to the brain, and the brain then decodes the sound. As I'm speaking now, passing between me and everyone else is not words, it's a vibrational information field coming from the vocal cords. The ear picks it up, decodes it into electrical signals to the brain then hears what you're saying. We only hear people when we've decoded what they hear, what we're hearing, and that's why you can hear somebody and hear completely different words and meanings and expressions to what were given, because your decoding system has intervened in that process, maybe because you don't like the person or whatever. The tongue is the same. You take electrical information, you turn it into electrical information to the brain, and then you taste. Oh, that's nice, when this decides that. Same with smell, the same system. Same with touch. You know, some pain relief situations now in hospitals, they stop the message going from the point of the pain to the brain, and if the brain doesn't get that message, it doesn't feel pain. So I've said many times that this is the stadium on which the human race is controlled. Because if you can control the way this decodes reality from the information it's receiving, then you control that person's perception of self and reality. That's the foundation of it all. Everything else, like I say, is detail. So, in this scene from The Matrix, when Neo said, "This isn't real," and Morpheus said, "What is real?" How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. Exactly. And what if there were people that understood that and understood how to manipulate the way people's brains interpret that information, what power they would have? That is what is happening. So we have these virtual reality lives we think are real. Oh yeah, I've got a nice car, mate. Yeah, I've got a big house. I'm quite good in banking. Oh, me, I'll make it up as I go along, my life. Yeah. Oh, me, my life's falling apart. I'm only just holding it together, mate. We're holding all these bloody virtual lives. When what we are is infinite consciousness, having that experience. Even movement is an illusion. There are some people who have malfunctions of the brain that don't see like tea coming out of the pot into a cup like a flow. They see a freeze frame. And there's the same basic malfunction as people seeing a car in the distance, and the next time they see it, it's just gone past them. They've seen nothing in between. Why? Not because there wasn't something in between to decode, but their brain didn't decode it. This is from the mainstream media. Researchers have been able to translate brain signals into speech using sensors attached to the surface of the brain for the first time. The breakthrough, which is up to 90% accurate, offers a way to communicate for paralyzed patients who cannot speak and could eventually lead to being able to read anyone's thoughts. That's what the brain's doing anyway. It's reading information signals and turning them into a reality. The brain is pitch black. There's no light in the brain. How can I see a light? Because that is information. And I'm decoding that information into light. Thus, again in the Matrix, this was so true. When the child said, "There is no spoon. It's not the spoon that bends. It is only yourself." In the way you decode reality. You have people, I've seen them, you walk through fire, somebody calls a bloody ambulance. But you go through fire in a different state of consciousness. What are you doing? You are decoding reality in a different way because of the different state of consciousness, and you can walk through fire and not get burned. Why? Because an illusion can only burn an illusion if you believe it can, and thus create that reality. So the body is merely a vehicle which is operating within the frequency range of this reality, and thus allows the true self to focus attention through the vehicle into this reality and experience what this reality has to offer. It is not who we are. That's the big mistake. The body is like a lens. It's like a telescope, which allows the true self, infinite awareness, to experience this reality. When we get caught into that is who we are, and that's what the conspiracy is working 24/7 all our lives to kid us to believe, then we become limited. I have no power. When we realize we are that, just having that experience, we are all powerful. We are consciousness. We are awareness. We are a point of attention within the great infinite forever. This is just the vehicle of experience. As a Central American shaman brilliantly put it, we are perceivers. We are awareness. We are not objects. We have no solidity. We are boundless. We, or rather our reason, forget this, and thus we entrap the totality of ourselves in a vicious circle from which we rarely emerge in our lifetime. The goal of the conspiracy is to stop us emerging from it. And this is a picture, an image by a great friend of mine, artist Neil Haig, a unique artist, and anything of this style through the day is his, and there's plenty of them. And basically the symbolism here is this is who we are as human beings, like just the white crests of the wave that seem to have some form of individuality, but actually they're just an expression of the ocean. And that's what the conspiracy wants us to forget, that we are the ocean. They want us to think we're just the droplet, the little me, the powerless little me. And I found this wonderful, wonderful picture. This is humanity. It is just a point of attention within infinite reality. And we can have a point of attention that is, I am Ethel Jones and I work at the store. Or we can have a point of attention that I am infinite consciousness, all that is, has been, and ever can be, having an experience as Ethel at the store. The difference in the way we live our lives from those 2 points of attention is absolutely fantastic. So we talk about subconscious. What is subconscious? It's just that which the conscious mind, tiny, is not consciously aware. In other words, it's everything that isn't the conscious mind. Goes on into infinity. Now this is an important point because it's going to play out through a lot of this. The foundation of this universe is not this. This is just a projection, a decoded version of it. The foundation of the universe is vibrational waveform information fields, which we decode through the electrical into what is the holographic. I'll get to that. In other words, this world is a reflection of that. This is where it all comes from. We're going deeper in the rabbit hole now. Even colors are frequencies, waveform frequencies. It's all they are. Everything in this reality is a waveform frequency. And so this is what I call the metaphysical universe. This is the waveform construct in all its forms, and we're decoding it through into what appears to be a solid world. It's actually illusory solid, holographic. And not only are we decoding this, we are also posting information onto this by our thoughts, responses, and actions. It's a two-way thing. It's like the cosmic internet, as I'll get to. So when Plato, ancient Greek philosopher, and Socrates and all that stuff around that time, Aristotle, Plato talked about the illusion of the world being shadows on the walls of a cave, which people took to be real, when it was just a projection of something else. All that time ago, spot on. And therefore, this waveform information becomes this only when it comes through this. Not just the brain either, the whole genetic structure is part of the decoding system. So this does not exist out there. There is no out there. There is only in here. And in here, which I'll really get to. And it's the same with the internet. There's no internet out there to a computer. It's within the computer's decoding process that it exists. And thus, the crazies want to, and have up to this point, not least because humanity has not understood what's going on because it's not told, they have sought to intervene into this process to dictate what emerges and manifests as our experienced sense of reality. In other words, humanity is under mass hypnosis. But you know, isn't it funny? We use these phrases and we use these words and we throw them away. They have such profound meaning. People say, I woke up and I could suddenly see it. Yes, woke up from the hypnotic trance. That's exactly what it is. And these are the hypnotists. And most of them, vast majority, are also hypnotized in a trance, hypnotized to hypnotize other people into the trance. They're called journalists, and whatever Bill O'Reilly is, I don't know who he is, or what he is anyway. on Fox News in America. And, you know, all these politicians, doctors, and all these people, teachers and schools and academics, they are hypnotizing people with a version of reality, most of them unknowingly. And this is where all this comes from. All these sources of, you must believe this is credible, this is not credible, are all hypnotic implants into the mind. And we live in what I call the wireless cosmos. And this is why we literally don't see it. Nowadays, of course, you've got the wireless internet. The Wembley Arena's probably, I'm sure, got the wireless internet. Okay, where the bloody hell is it? It's here. I could get this computer here, and I could log it in, and in the middle of this stage, with no wires attached to it, I could log into a worldwide reality, a collective reality that can be picked up in South Africa, America, Britain, in Russia, everywhere that it's available. And that's what we are doing through the body computer. We are picking up information from the cosmic internet, as I call it, and we are decoding it into a experienced reality. And what we decode from it and what we don't decode from it is dictated by the way our decoding system works, and that is immensely dictated by our sense of perception. So what is the internet? Well, people say, well, it's graphics and it's words and it's pictures on a screen. Well, yes, it is, but only on the screen. Everywhere else, it's electrical circuits and all this stuff. Okay, what's TV? Well, it's moving pictures on a screen. Yes, it is, but only on the screen. Everywhere else, it's electronic circuits, it's digital stuff these days, or it's the old frequency, analog stuff that's still around. That's what most of it is. Only on the screen is it that. Well, only on our screen is this. Any other time, it's a vast information construct. And because we're all decoding the basic same construct, that's why we see the same lights. That's why we see the same blue car passing. But what we think of that car, whether we like it or don't like it, or all the rest of it, is our unique spin on that collective virtual reality game that we're experiencing. Now, I make the strong difference between what I call body-mind. This is so important to the conspiracy as we go through the day. What I call body-mind and what I call consciousness. Body-mind to me is the body and the lower auric field mind that operates in this reality, basically. And this consciousness is the greater self operating beyond this reality, with therefore a very different view of this world from its perspective of attention. And of course, if you were on the internet and your consciousness, symbolically the guy with the keyboard and the mouse, had control of the computer, well, that's great, because you're deciding what websites you go to, you're deciding whether you like them or whether you don't like them, you're making all the decisions. But what if this became detached from that, and that went away on its own, making its own decisions, deciding where it's going to go and what it thinks of it? Suddenly this is banging the keyboard and tapping the mouse, nothing happening. And that's what the conspiracy is about. It's isolating body-mind, that which is having the experience, from the greater self. That's why we live in a society that's entirely about attracting and controlling and hijacking the attention of the five senses. And, of course, everything is one. We'll get into this. Everything is one. But that one has multiple infinite possibilities and expressions. Thus, mind and consciousness are of the same substance, but they're not in the same state of perception and awareness. Consciousness can be symbolized as the ocean, and mind, still the same as the ocean, in water in this symbolic case, but it's much denser, much more limited in its ability to perceive. And this is where humanity is, when this is what humanity really is. This guy, Ramana Maharshi, he left home. I don't recommend it, but if you fancy it. He left home at 14. He went to a mountain called Arunachala in India, and he meditated for much of the rest of his life. And in those deep states of meditation, he came to this conclusion. Mind is consciousness which is put on limitations. You are originally unlimited and perfect. Later you take on limitations and become the mind. The conspiracy must have us become the mind. Otherwise we're uncontrollable. Einstein, a human being is part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feeling, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. Consciousness sees everything as one. Mind sees everything as apart from everything else. Where do you want people to be in terms of their point of attention if you want people in constant conflict, warfare, and divide and rule? Certainly not that. So, as I said, it's a great image by Neil Haig. I asked him to do it because I've had this picture in my mind for years of symbolically our situation in experiencing this reality. This is the true self, and this is the five-sense self that is basically looking into this reality and decoding it. And our focus of attention can be purely here, in which case we'll read the Sun or the National Enquirer and believe the dates, and, oh no, it's real, mate, it's all real. Or we can have our point of attention going deep into the greater self, in which case we will see this in a totally different way. So, what is the universe? It is information. And that's the construct from which it comes. And information is in everything, because everything is information. This is a man called Dr. Emoto. I spent a whole weekend with him once in London and had a long, long chat with him about his work. And he became well known in his field because what he does is he takes little canisters of water, for instance, and he'll write words on them and stick them to the side of the canister. Or he'll put a mobile phone on them, maybe. And then he freezes them. I've been to his studio laboratory in Tokyo and seen how it does, where he does it. And he freezes it very, very quickly. And then he photographs the water crystals from the water before they melt. This is a water crystal that had love and appreciation written on the side. This is a water crystal that had "You make me sick, I want to kill you" written on the side. You want to see what they look like when a mobile phone's been on the side. Now, what is happening here? Like I say, the base construct of everything in this universe is waveform information, which is decoded through to the electrical and the digital too, into the holographic. So what's happening is what we're seeing in this reality, this holographic reality, is someone writing words and putting them on the side of a canister of water. But if you go back here to the foundation of everything, those words in their foundation state, written or spoken, are in vibrational information. Now, the words of love and appreciation are a harmonious vibrational information state. So when they impact upon the vibrational state of the water, it's geometrically beautiful because it's harmonious. You get words like "you make me sick, I want to kill you," and you take them back from the written state into their foundation state, vibrational information, and it's a very distorted information state because of the intent behind them. And therefore, when it plays through, it distorts the harmony of the water, which you can see in the crystals. And everything is information. There's an organization in Germany called the Aerospace Institute in Stuttgart. And if you put into YouTube the words "water has a memory," you'll see a little video about this. What they've found there is the ability to photograph information in water droplets. And for instance, what they have done is they had this big canister of water and they put a flower in it. And then they took the flower out and then they photographed the individual droplets, or some of them,